So just about a week ago, I completed all of the Archon quests, and a lot of you guys were asking me, well, what did you think of them, how would you rank them, which ones were your favorite, and which ones you didn't like. So instead of just going one by one answering your comments, how about we just make a quick video and discuss them. So the idea is very simple, we're gonna go from worst to best, right? Very simple. We won't talk too much about the regions, but the regions themselves are a part of questing, so we will take that also into consideration, how much we like the region. And so let's start with our favorite place in the world, the Chasm. What can I say, guys? I absolutely despise this place. I know it looks absolutely beautiful from the outside, I mean just gorgeous, absolutely spectacular. You can do something like this and it would be an amazing thumbnail, right? But as far as the region itself goes, it was absolutely awful. Now I know you might say to me, well actually Chasm is not really that big of a part of the game, right? But at the end of the day, you still have to go through it and it still is a part of the game. Even if you don't have to be here for too long, you still have to go through it. And honestly, I just hated it. It was dreadful. I couldn't wait for it to end. The only time I had any kind of decent enough time in here was when I did the Interlude questline. Then that one sent me all the way through the Chasm, like from top to bottom, and that was somewhat entertaining, but honestly really that was about it. That was about the only time. The rest of the time this place was just annoying, the quests were absolutely uninteresting, and again, this all is just an opinion based, and if you don't like my opinion and you think otherwise, good, because I cannot help you with that. It's all opinion based, and Chasm was my absolutely least favorite area to do quests in, and the second that it ended, I was super happy to never come back here again. But unfortunately I did have to come back here again to finish up the Interlude quests, and like I said, that was somewhat more decent, but nothing really to write home about. And yeah, that's about it. What can I say? I hated it, and let's move to the next storyline. And that, my friends, will be Inazuma. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys, wasn't a big fan of it. It had some upsides to it. The best quest of Inazuma had nothing to do with the main story Archon line. For me, the best quest of Inazuma was Raiden Shogun's story, Act 2. And although it is sort of like a main storyline, that is true, but it is not in the Archon storyline, so otherwise the main storyline was like too fast-paced. There wasn't anything too interesting in it. The ending was, I guess, okay. It was a pretty cool battle with the Raiden Shogun, but otherwise that's about the only highlight from it for me. You go through 4 islands and all of them you visit for like 5 minutes. Then you get the Inazuma set free essentially from the Shogun's lockdown, and while it sounds cool but execution really sucked, it was way too fast, way too poorly balanced, and nothing too interesting happened. Now, although I said I won't go in too much into the regions, but I will mention the fact that for me, and honestly probably for quite a lot of people, this wasn't the favorite place to be either. A lot of the puzzles in this region just literally suck. There is no way around it. People complain of how everything looks so purple, which I do agree, it does look a lot like it. And although it's pretty cool to travel with a boat across islands, that's really about the only thing I liked about these islands. A lot of these places that are locked down by like a lightning barrier or something like that is like also quite annoying. Honestly, there's just so many annoying things about this region that it almost feels like the questing was the least of its problems. But since we are talking about the Archon quest line, for me it does finish above the Chasm, but that's a pretty low bar, so you know, nothing really to write home about if I'm being honest. Of course, unlike the Chasm, at least it's a complete region with a complete story, a lot of rewards, and it has the Raiden Shogun, which is one of my more favorite characters in this game. And like I said, the ending of this questline was somewhat okay, so I, not gonna trash too much about it. But otherwise, that's really about the only upside to this questline and this region. And the next on the list will be our beloved Mondstadt. And honestly, Mondstadt is a very solid introduction to the game, maybe a little bit on the shorter end, but it does the job well. The story is like mid, I guess, but it's not bad either. The ending of Mondstadt fighting the dragon was pretty cool. That was probably the first battle that I was super excited for. It was like a grand battle that was absolutely dope. I wish the Mondstadt would have a little bit more story and a little bit less downtime where you don't have enough level to progress through the story, because as a new player that kind of kills the momentum, and so the shortage of main storyline quests, combine it with the game not explaining well enough for me how to progress and what to do, led me to quitting the Genshin for the first time. But thankfully, because my sister kept playing this game and eventually she said to try again, I did, and now I love this game. And that's kind of what bumps down the Mondstadt a little bit, because as a region itself, Mondstadt is actually pretty decent. I like the way it looks. Like the first time you open it up and it feels immediately, it feels like an adventure. It feels quality, it feels good, it looks beautiful, the combat is fun, right? Everything in here kind of works. There's no stupid annoying things in Mondstadt, no stupid annoying puzzles, no mountain you couldn't climb. It's just a solid region with a decent enough questline, and honestly I believe it does good enough job to sort of ease you into the game, although that, like I said, the questline itself could use a little bit of work, but it's fine. Alright, it's not bad. Like, for me, Mondstadt is like straight down the middle. Not great, not terrible, absolutely decent enough. And if you're enjoying this video so far, be sure to subscribe, as there's gonna be plenty of Genshin content to come in the update that's about to come, and future as well. Now let's get back to the video. And that brings us to the next questline, which will be the Luai region and the Luai questline. Now, what I like about Luai a lot and all of the quests is just how absolutely massive it was. There were so many things to explore, and the quest lines would send you into so many different areas. A lot of it is pretty cool, the region is pretty damn awesome. But if we sort of just look past a little bit the region itself and just look at it from the questline perspective, truth be told, the Luai is not the best, but it's far from the worst as well for me. Now, although I do think the Luai kinda has a little bit of the opposite problem from Mondstadt, while Mondstadt was good but too short, Luai on the other hand could have been good, but it was too long. And I'm not saying that Luai was like a bad storyline or anything, but there were so many annoying quests, so many downright disgusting quest lines, and they took so long. Like, it's ridiculous the amount of time they took. I cannot say with a clean conscience that Luai was better than the quest lines and the regions above it, but I will not say that it was worse than the regions or the quest lines below it. Honestly, and one of the main reasons why for me Luai and its whole quest line was a little bit above everything else before it, is just an amazing ending. Honestly, the ending was absolutely top notch. It was 10 out of 10. Only the Sumeru and Fontaine endings for me were better than the Luai. I absolutely loved fighting the ancient god, the whole floating island thing and stuff like that. It was just awesome. I absolutely loved it. But the truth is, I know that some of you, probably a lot of you, actually really don't like Luai. I know that a lot of you guys don't like the region and you guys despise the questline, and I don't blame you. It has a lot of flaws, but I liked it. It felt like an adventure. It was big, long. Okay, that sounded very wrong, but you know what I mean. And yeah, I don't know guys, I really like the region itself as well. There were not any like stupid places or annoying puzzles or anything. The region was awesome. I love the way it looks. I love the way Luai looks. And I know that some of the places can be a climbing simulator, but honestly I didn't feel that way. It was fine for me. But since we're mainly talking about the quest lines, I liked it as well. There were some cool quests in here. Some were disgustingly bad, like probably Luai had the worst quests in the game, but it also had one of the best quests in the game as well. Like, it honestly had everything in between, but the problem is there were more bad than good, and so therefore I cannot place it at the very top. And honestly, neither does it deserve to be there. And if you feel that Luai should have been lower based on the quests and the whole region, I wouldn't blame you. I know it's not a fan favorite, but I enjoyed it, I liked it. That's for me where Luai stands. As you can see, I still to this day do my dailies here simply because honestly I feel like they're the easiest to do here and the quickest. I will also give a quick shout out to Interlude quests. Now, although they are not technically in any one place, they take part across Luai, Chasm, and Sumeru, and the reason I'm gonna put them above Luai, it's simply because they are reasonably short. I know that a lot of you guys like them. I personally didn't like them too much, but they were okay for me. If I would have to rate them one by one, some of them were more interesting than the other ones, but as a whole, Interlude questline, it was okay. It was a little bit better than Luai. It was a lot shorter, quicker, and a little bit more enjoyable, but honestly, it's kind of like a Chasm, you know, because it doesn't really have that long and big storyline, so it's almost like a sub-storyline, you know what I mean? So we're gonna place it just a little bit above Luai, and move to the next one. That will be Fontaine. And I know that for you guys, this is probably gonna be a little bit controversial. I know that some of you, in fact probably a lot of you, like 70% if not more, actually prefer Fontaine over Sumeru, but I guess at this point it's not really a secret anymore what's gonna be in the first place, right? I personally prefer Sumeru a little bit more, but we're gonna talk about Sumeru in the Sumeru section. The reason I have Fontaine below Sumeru is because while for me the Fontaine has the best ending in the game in the storyline, no competition, not even close. The problem for me is that it also starts not as high. The first couple of acts of Fontaine is maybe like a 6 or a 7 out of 10. Like, it's not bad by any means, but you know, it's nothing to write home about too much either. While on the other hand, the ending of Fontaine was truly an 11 out of 10 experience. It is absolutely rivaled by none. The only thing that can rival Fontaine's ending is the Sumeru's ending, and we're gonna get there in time. I absolutely loved Nevulet, his story. I loved every single scene he was in it. Everything was just awesome about him. I wasn't a huge fan of the trials. I think they were a little bit too lengthy for their own good. I think the trials should have been like a one-act thing and not like 2 and then some. As far as the region itself goes, it feels almost like a Mondstadt 2.0. It's like a Mondstadt, but it's better in every way possible, you know what I mean? It feels similar, it looks similar, but it also has so many more things in it, so many more places to explore, so much more detail to it, and yet at the same time it has such a similar vibe as well. Although I haven't explored too much of it because, as you can see by the percentages, this is probably the only region I am yet still to fully explore. Every other place I have at least a decent amount of exploration, but this is yet still for me new territories, so I cannot comment too much on the region itself as a region, but from the little time I spent here, it feels like Mondstadt, but better. And as far as the story goes, it's an absolute joy. The ending was the best ending in any questline in Genshin Impact, and by a huge margin as well. And the only thing I can ask from Genshin is, please, more of that. This region and this questline truly shined, and it shined very brightly. And characters that it had in it, like this guy, the Nevulet, was just, that was so good, man. That was an absolute joy. And I hope that Genshin learns everything they did right in Fontaine, and the next regions will be just as good. And that brings us to my favorite questline in the game, the Sumeru. Now, the Sumeru truly was for me a 10 out of 10 experience. Well, quest-wise. The region itself, it had a little bit more problems. But as far as the questing goes, from start to finish, I absolutely loved it. And again, we're not talking about world quests and side quests, we're only talking about the main Archon's main storyline quests. And the whole time you kind of felt like you were a part of the gang, and the whole time you were trying to set free a region from bad people who tried to overtake this region, create a false god, and try to rule it, while spreading the hatred between the people who live on this side to the nomads who live on this side of the Sumeru in the desert. And in the end you managed to get both of them together, create a team, create a plan, and set everything straight. Along the way you also take down a false god, you free Nihada, and all this time you have quite a lot of interesting quest lines, quite a lot of interesting dialogues. I loved the time loop cycle quest, like I really did, and honestly for me it was just a 10 out of 10 experience as far as the questing goes, but like I said before, we're not talking about overall questing, just the main storyline. As far as the region itself goes, Sumeru can definitely be on the more annoying part, although the puzzles are nowhere near as annoying as Inazuma, but if you're looking for Dendrocolus or anything really, it can be so tricky. Everything looks the same, everything is just so difficult to find. There's like a million tunnels and a million ways to get around. The underground in the desert can be truly an annoying place as well, because if you need to find something, it can become a maze, while the outside of the desert looks truly amazing, absolutely spectacular. It can be annoying to navigate because so many things that look on the map that are here can be actually below the ground, and clearly this guy is not supposed to be there, or maybe he actually supposed to be there. Yep, you see, that's what I'm talking about. This place is not an easiest place to navigate. It looked like a bug, but actually this is not a bug, this is how it's supposed to be. Like I said, it can be annoying, so if anybody says to me, oh, I hated Sumeru because of the region itself, I don't blame you for that, but the main storyline was truly awesome. For me, Fontaine had a better ending, but had a much lower start to the questline, while on the other hand for me, Sumeru had just a tiny little bit worse ending, but when I say worse, it's like half a point worse, you know what I mean, just a tiny little bit, but it started off with a 10 out of 10 as well. It started off great, it ended great. On the other hand, Fontaine started okay and ended like 11 out of 10, just an absolutely wonderful experience. So overall, I would still prefer Sumeru as a whole, but if we would rate only the endings, then obviously that would be the Fontaine. And so that's how I would rate the Archon questlines, and it somewhat reflects the regions as well, because you do go through them while doing these questlines. So I hope I answered your questions to which regions and storylines I preferred in what order, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for future Genshin content, and there's a lot of Genshin content on my channel. If you wanna watch my whole journey from Mondstadt to where I am today, you can check it out on the channel. You can check out any of these two videos. Other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.